1. AJ Johnson. Welcome home.
Man, don't make me cry up in here. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I'm actually, oof.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot. Man.
Yeah.
This was the beginning. Like the real beginning of believing in myself and learning what it takes and, being in such an environment that nurtured my talent and my business sense and my craft. There's so many people who don't have that. And I get DM'd by them. I get emailed by them. I get stopped on the street. I speak to people globally at this point in my life and career that are always asking me, like, what does it take? What do I do? And I realize how special my foundation was here, because so many people just get off the plane to LA and go, now what do I do?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, boo, I can't even help you because my foundation was different. I was in an environment where Spike Lee sat down and talked to me. Debbie Allen was my dance teacher for 30 days. Felicia Rashad was my acting teacher because that's the AUC environment. That it's intimate and it's prestigious enough that people come and teach and share. So Bill Cosby at the time, right, was all over Morehouse and all over Spelman's campus. So when I was Miss Maruna White for Morehouse, I had access to all these people one-on-one, not just in class. And I knew that if I had that title, which we'll get into because that was strategic and intentional too, I knew that if I could gain one of those titles as a Spelman student, that it would give me access one-on-one to the people who were living my dream. And that's what happened. And they took me under their wing and told me what to do. And every one of them said, if you're going to do it, get to LA now. Get to LA and make your mark. Take this Spelman energy, take this Spelman confidence, take this AUC guidance and drop it hard on LA. And I guarantee you'll be fine. And so now, all these years later, It's like, ooh, golly.
And I have on my Gamma Phi Gamma sweatshirt, my hoodie, because I knew that was my first introduction to you as an actress. You were in School Daze, 1988. I'm sorry, 1988. Mm-hmm. Who was that girl bopping around Spelman College, just pledged Delta Sigma Theta? You were Miss Maroon and White. Who was that girl? What were your dreams at that time that you were a student here?
I was running around here a star. You couldn't tell me I wasn't a star. I was treated like a star. Everybody knew who I was. I had done the damn thing at the AU Center, and I was a star. And I was waiting to see, now where does this go? And it was scary because I knew that, I'm only here for 4 years. So by the time I was Miss Maruna White and I had, I hadn't done School Daze yet, but I was Miss Maruna White. I had done a bunch of commercials for Coca-Cola because I was here in Atlanta. Right. So I had a commercial agent. I was active in the theater circuit, but I was also a science major. And a lot of people don't know that. My parents would have never financed me being a fine arts major because I came from a very high academic household. So I'm the baby and the only girl, and all my older brothers went to Ivy League schools. So now I'm the only one went to HBCU, and I'm dabbling in the arts. So that was never going to fly. So I was a science major. So I was dual degree chemistry, psychology, and I knew that my family was going to promote med school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there was no way that I could share my passion and what I started to identify as my purpose as I uncovered both in the performing arts some kind of way. And I just said, I got to figure out what to do. Like, this is great. And that's when I started asking President of Morehouse at the time, President Spelman, like, can I please have a mentor meeting with Bill Cosby? Can I please speak with Debbie Allen? Can you please set me up with Felicia Rashad? Can you please have me meet Alfre Woodard for 10 minutes after she speaks at, freshman convocation? And just to have access to those people at that time of my life gave me the confidence I could do it, because every conversation they said, you can't do much being a big fish in a little sea. And right now you're a big fish in a little sea. If you really want to know, go swim with the sharks. Mm. And then, of course, when I spoke with my father about it, the first thing he said was, well, I love the advice, but if you don't go, you're never going to know. And two of my professors here in the AU Center said, you have to go because you're never going to know what happens if you don't. And I don't want to see you be one of those success stories that turns out to be, I just didn't try. What have you had to lose? And so, oh my gosh, riddled with fear of failure, but believing I could do it. I actually went my senior year spring break. I went to LA for my spring break. And, through my networking, I had some friends who were dancers that were working in LA already, that weren't even from Spelman or the AU Center. They were just from Atlanta, like theater friends that I met from New York that had come through Fox Theater or something, theater at the Fox.
Yeah.
Of course, I was making friends in the industry, networking even at that time, not even knowing what I was really doing networking, but maintaining and fertilizing relationships, which I want to talk about because that's
very
key.
Oh my gosh.
So key. But that's what I was doing then. And I remember them saying, we're going to be in LA. We're going to be in LA. It happened to be my senior year spring break. They said, come out, stay with us, sleep on the couch, and just explore LA. And I never forget at that time, shows on TV that I had been watching were like, what was the talent show that was out?
Solid Gold.
No, Stars.
Star Search.
Star Search.
Yeah.
Yes, Star Search. Star Search was on.
Yeah.
Those kind of shows.
Yeah.
And I went to the theater when I got to LA. I went to the theater where they filmed Star Search, and I was shocked at how small and intimate the theater was. Because on TV, the boom cameras come out and they make it look so humongous, like there's thousands of people, and that can be intimidating. And I went in the theater and I was like, Morehouse, MLK Theater's bigger than this.
Yeah.
And I danced on that stage like it's nothing. And all of a sudden, my confidence was like, you know what? I could come here and do this. I could come here and really do this. And so that's when I said, I'm going to LA. I'm going to go to LA and try it. I was no longer intimidated by what I thought it was. And here I am.
Yeah.
Years later.
How did School Daze come to you? I mean, at that point, I'm sure you already knew Spike.
Well, honestly, it's funny. I did not know Spike. I heard as I was packing up to get ready to try to come to LA, I heard that Spike Lee, who I knew who he was, I didn't know him personally. I knew who he was. Of course, I knew that he was a Morehouse grad. At the time, he was actually not casting. He was coming to scout locations for School Daze. And when I heard that one of the things he was going to be filming was homecoming footage for crowd footage, because at the time he didn't really have the budget, to do anything different.
Yeah.
So he was actually kind of cheating. And listen, it was smart, to use the Morehouse Spelman homecoming as his crowd footage. And I said, wow, I miss Morehouse. I'm deep in relationship with the people who run the Miss Morehouse, homecoming pageant. I'm going to go to them and ask them, can I perform? Because I know if I get Spike's attention as a performer, I can have a conversation. And they said, absolutely. So I had dancer auditions. I produced this whole 3-minute performance when I knew Spike was going to be at homecoming. And sure enough, I had this whole thing that I did, this whole Janet Jackson-esque dance with dancers behind me. They carried me out. I had a custom costume with flames up my legs. I had special effects. I had platforms built, And I mean, I put my all into this performance. And he came backstage and he said, I'm going to be shooting a film soon, and I think there's something in it for you. And I said, well, I'm on my way to LA, cocky superstar, cocky superstar in the AUC. I said, well, I'm on my way to LA, so you have to let me know what I'm doing because, I'm getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, okay. Well, can you shoot in the next 2 weeks? And I was like, well, what am I going to be doing in the movie? I promise you, he will tell you the same story. And he was like, I don't know, but I'm going to give you some lines. I didn't even know then what that meant. I said, okay, that's cool. And of course, I went back to my sorority sisters and I was like, I think I'm going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
I think if he's serious, I think I'm going to be in this movie. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, Robbie Reed and Spike called and said, come fill out this paperwork because we're going to give you a speaking role. What I learned later was the paperwork was Taft-Hartley, which is how the production pays for you to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild, so that you're now officially a bona fide actor in the union. I had no idea what that even meant. But that's how I credit them as being the start of my career. Because by the time I moved to LA, I had a major film behind me. I was a Screen Actors Guild member. So I wasn't just getting off the plane like I want to be an actress.
Right.
I was an actress at the time when I got off the plane in LA. And I was looking around at all the talent flown into Atlanta doing School Daze, and I was like, I want to eat with them, I want to sleep with them, like they're really, really doing it, I don't know why I can't be in scenes with them, and I didn't realize, I promise you this is true, I didn't realize until I was in LA at the premiere, and I said, no wonder they never put me with them, because they were background dancers. But I didn't know it. All I knew was these were people from L.A.
Right.
that were flown into Atlanta. And I was like, ooh, they're from L.A. They're really doing it. Yeah, they were background dancers flown in from L.A. And I was the one with a speaking role. And that's when I said, okay, I got to learn this game because clearly I'm doing this thing. Like, I'm really doing it. And I need to learn what my next steps are. And so that's how School Daze came to be.
Yeah. And it was crazy because as we were coming into the building, I was pointing to Bumstead Hall, which has the window in which you did, that scene in the film.
And I would have never thought about that because I was already so overwhelmed just being at the library and how many hours I spent creating and hanging out with which is another thing. Like, I want to tell the students, like, find like-minded and like-spirited people, because that's where you create. Don't come to me and ask me how to get started. I've already gotten started. What you need to do is surround yourself with like-minded, like-spirited, like-purposed and like-passionate people so that you all can create together. I think nowadays people want an easier way out, and you don't learn the tricks of the trade when you do that. And so I was always hanging out here at Clark, the AUC. Even though I was a science major, I was like, I gotta go study, I gotta go to the lab, but I'll be right back. Yeah. And we would be in here all times of the night, creating dance routines, like, filming with the equipment, just creating our own movies. Like, people who really wanted to do it, we were doing it on our own little, bless our hearts, student scale. But, we were doing it, and you couldn't tell us anything different. Yeah. And I love that gave me, I'm so choked up about it. It gave me the belief that I could actually go do it. And I really don't even know why. Like, why would I think leaving Clark AUC was my foundation to make it in Hollywood? But I knew it. I knew it in my soul. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm getting ready to take over Hollywood. They don't even know. I'm here from Spelman. If I could make it in the AUC, Hollywood ain't nothing. You think you're bad? I'm Miss Morehouse. Yeah. I mean, that was my attitude. All the men at Morehouse College, and there's nothing better, and all the brothers at Clark voted me their queen. What you got? Like, that was my attitude. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, set your foundation.
Man. Yeah. Man.
Let's talk about House Party.
Yeah, let's talk about House Party.
That was, I think that was probably one of the very first, quote unquote, hip hop films, and definitely
was
starring a major hip hop act. We had never seen that before.
Right.
And so to be one of the main characters in this film, did you guys know that it was going to be a hit at that time?
Not at all. Not at all. We were new talents, all of us. Kid and Play, me. Tisha was the novice because she had done other films, Little Shop of Horrors, School Daze. Yeah. She was a movie star, but wanting to do other kind of projects. And so that's interesting that she was available and wanted to do House Party. But for me, Martin Lawrence, Kid and Play, we were new. Jill Mitchell, we were all newcomers. And, I remember our first table read meeting. And Reggie Hudlin and Warrington Hudlin sat us down and said, you guys probably don't know the special that this is, but there's a special chemistry and there's a special thing that comes with you all. All we knew was that we were collaborating. Mm-hmm. We respected each other. We were hungry. Same thing that I was used to here at AU, where I had found like-minded spirits who wanted to create. House Party was no different. It was like, Play, why don't you say this? Or Kid, why don't you say this when he says that? Try it. Or AJ, you know what you should do? What about this? We were collaborating. And thank God, Reggie Hudlin, the writer-producer, was smart enough to let us fly and not be a writer-producer who was like, no, stick to the script. No, stand here. He was like, listen, you guys are something special. And I can feel it, and I'm not going to get in the way. I also remember when we first started shooting, probably within the first week, we, of course, shot out of sequence. And so it was one of our first scenes at the party. And we were all at the party. It wasn't the dance scene yet, but we were all at the party, and it was just kind of like a group shot. And so, of course, it was explained to us, like, the party's going on, the extras are dancing, and this was the first use of a handheld. Remember that? Okay. So House Party was the first film to use a handheld. Wow. So they explained to us what was going to happen. You can see the camera. It's going to be on your hips, AJ, and then Tisha, your feet. And then we're going to come. So just watch the camera and give us extra energy when you see the camera coming to you. We had never worked with a handheld before. And I never forget that one of the head executives of New Line Cinema, who was the distribution for the film, came to us after that scene. And he said, you guys better get ready. Oof. He said, you're going to be stars overnight. And I had no idea, none, what he was talking about. House Party hit. I couldn't walk down the street the next day. I was like shocked. I mean, magazines calling, TV shows calling. The publicist for New Line was like, oh my God, we've got a list of interviews that you won't even be able to do in a week. I had no idea. And the rocket took off from there.
And what's crazy is that you had already spoken this. You said that, look, I'm a star. And
I was going to class in shades. I was going to class here asking my instructors, like, they would say, does anybody have any questions? Yes, I have an audition in my shades. Yes, I have an audition. Can I take the final before the date? Because I have an audition. And the instructor, and this is how much they were into it. They were like, Miss Johnson, first of all, take your shades off. This is not Hollywood. And no, you can't take your final early. And I was like, okay, well, the only stupid question is when not asked. And I would sit down. But I was like, you are not going to be a pin at my balloon party. I know who I am, and that's how, and if you ask people who are in school with me, they're like, oh my God, she was walking around here like people were asking for her autograph because she was handling herself like, you better get it now, boo. You better get it now while I'm still here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to think about it because at 18, that's who I was. I believed in myself that much.
Wow. Let's talk about Baby Boy.
Yeah.
Which introduced you to a whole new generation of fans. I mean, and being able to work with John Singleton, who, again, as we were coming down the hallway, he was like the next.
Yeah.
It was Spike, and then after Spike, it was John Singleton. So, what was that like working with him, and how did that change your career as well?
Well, first, I want to make sure I say that the one reason why I say after Spike, the next was John Singleton, because John was so authentic in wanting fresh, new faces and new talent to tell his real stories. John was not necessarily a believer in, I need to use names to get my stories told. And he knew that sometimes names would be a distraction to what he was trying to portray. And I felt like, my experience with Spike was that. A lot of people don't know that I actually met John on the set of House Party. He was still a student at USC. And he was this nerd student hanging out at this new hip hop film that everybody, that had the buzz in Hollywood going. And he came over to me and he called me Chocolate Sunday. Hey, Chocolate Sunday. We're going to work together one day. And I was like, I believe that. And I asked him who he was and what he was doing. And I said, I would love to work with you. You sound like you've got some great ideas and hopefully we'll work together one day soon. Never thinking that all those years later we would doing Baby Boy.
Mm-hmm.
But not only was Baby Boy new and different for that reason with John, but it was new and different because it opened up a whole nother world for me in terms of how I worked. John pulled me out of what I was used to. By the time I did Baby Boy, I had done 20 studio films, 4 TV series, guest spots to the number I can't even recall. On hit shows, Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, I was a working actress and happy to be. I had worked with Cicely Tyson, Alfre Woodard, Julia Roberts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sylvester Stallone. I mean, I had been working.
And if I can say, very few brown faces, brown skinned women that were in some major. I mean, it was you, and it was oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. Tara. She was also in School Daze. Brown skinned sister.
Farrah? Tyra Farrell.
Yes.
Tyra Farrell.
You two were almost like the faces that represented brown women.
And thank God she was a little bit older than me, or else I probably would have never had a shot because she's so bad.
Yeah.
She's so beast. And she still is.
Yeah.
She's so beast.
Yeah.
But I just remember that John said to me, because I didn't even audition for Baby Boy. I didn't want to have kids in a movie. I knew that I didn't know anything about South Central, and I just wasn't interested in that whole thing. And I wasn't paying attention. And then I got a phone call from John Singleton one day, and he said, listen, we've done 2 screen tests. We can't find the role of the mother for Tyrese. And I was like, well, you still can't, because I'm not, I'm not trying to be Tyrese's mom. That's not going to happen. Not at this stage of my career. He said, but hold on. He said, what's interesting about the role is we want her to look like Tyrese's girlfriend. And I was like, okay. And he said, and the way that it's written, I think who you are, your humor, your drama background, it's a perfect blend for what I want in this woman. And I said, no, I passed. And then probably about 2 weeks after that, John and Tyrese knocked on my front door. And they were like, we got to talk. And I was like, oh, God, I said no. And I mean, that had never happened to me before. When a director and a lead actor comes to your door.
Yeah.
That was John, though.
Yeah.
And so we sat on the couch, And 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang, and it was Ving Rhames. They were like, it was intervention. It was like baby boy intervention. And they each talked about why they wanted me to do this movie. And I really knew nothing about it because I didn't read the script. And so John said, read the script, see what you think. If you're interested, I just want to do a screen test. That's it. And so, rest my dad's soul, they left. And I had actually had surgery on my feet because in a physical workout accident, I broke both my feet. And I was like, when are you trying to shoot? Like, I'm in a wheelchair. Literally. I was like, I can't even shoot this movie. He said, let's do first things first. If you like it and you want to do it and the screen test goes well, we'll talk about when to shoot. And I said, okay. And I'll never forget, my dad, rest his soul, the door shut. And he said, so what are you thinking? And I was like, I don't want to play Tyrese's mom. And of course, it was quiet. And I knew what that meant. Because at this point, he's my biggest fan, my acting coach. And I didn't want to ask his freaking opinion. And I said to him, what do you think? And he said, you have to do it. And I was like, what? He said, you have to do it. And I said, why? He said, because I understand why they're not finding her. He said, there's something you're going to bring because you're not South Central. There's a way that you were raised. There's a way that you love, your relationship history. There's something you're going to bring that this audience has never seen. And you're the only person to do it. He said, outside of the ghetto and the South Central energy and looking young, he said, there's a maturity in your love that you're going to bring that nobody else is going to bring. He said, I think you have to do it. And that's what made me read the script a little bit more serious. And I called John that night and I said, let's do a screen test. And when I tell you, it's so funny because Tasha Smith was also screen testing the same day that I went in. So clearly they were still, looking. And Tasha didn't tell me this literally till recently. She said, I got a confession. And she says, I tell this story in my acting class because, now she's at TSAW. She has her own acting studio. Yeah. And she said, I'm telling my students this, so I have to confess this to you now. And I said, what? She said, I heard your audition. I heard your screen test. And I knew I should just go home. She said, you were so raw and so emotional and so fearless. She said, you came out of the audition room in your underwear. She said, and when you did that, I knew it was time for me to go home. She said, because I had not even imagined myself auditioning in my underwear for any scene we had to do. And what it was it was not even a scene like that. It was in the kitchen. And I remember that, John was saying, this is a love you've never had before. This is a romance that's going to make you choose him over your son. So what happens? And I mean, Ving and I started ad-libbing. And at one point, Ving said, you're the love of my life. Am I the love of your life? And I just started taking off my clothes. And I was like, take me. And I mean, by the time I left the room, I literally came out of my bra and panties. And Tasha was like, okay, never mind. I'm going home. Because if she's doing that in the audition, she can have it.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, they just said, when can you shoot? And we started shooting 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And in that 2 weeks, John set me up with friends of his that lived in South Central. I lived with Tyrese for a week so we could bond because John Singleton was very much into the true, authentic relationships. Because when we got to set and started speaking the script words, he wanted real emotion. So by the time we started shooting, we knew each other's buttons.
Yeah.
We knew what to say. We knew what to do. We knew emotionally how to trigger each other. We had bonded that much. So that part was easy. It was just sticking to the script. And sometimes John would say, okay, we got that with the script. Now you know the scene. You know where it starts. You know where it ends. Just talk. And let me film that. And so much of that made the film.
Damson Idris, who stars in Snowfall, said the same thing. He spent time with John before the first season started just so that he could know what it was like to live in L.A., the music, the neighborhoods, the people. So, yeah, that's wow.
That was how he did it. And I mean, I struggled the first part of the shoot. Please know, it wasn't easy for me. And at one point, John finally said to me, I'm going to tell you the problem. You're thinking that you're trying to bring A.J. Johnson, the Spelman grad, to this role. She has no place on this set. You got to let her go. This woman is not that smart. This woman is not coming from that logical perspective. She's coming from love, and she doesn't know whether to give it to her son or get it from her lover. And she's trying to figure it out. He said, I want to see more figuring it out than knowing. And he said, I don't even care if you don't rush. Let the camera see you figuring it out in your eyes. But please don't bring the Spelman knowing here, because that's not going to work. And that unlocked me. As soon as he told me that, I was free to just explore and not rush my scenes and just let the rawness of the emotion play. And you see what happened.
Yeah. Let's talk about your new film, Stuck With You. It's airing now on UMC,
Yes.
Urban Movie Channel, and
Yes.
Really excited about this.
New TV series.
Yeah.
It's exciting for me for a couple of reasons. Again, working with one of my best friends, Patricia Cuffey Jones, creator, writer, producer. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She writes story very well, but I love the multi-dimensions of women that she's creating. And so when, as a friend, she said, what are you doing in July? And I was like, what are you doing in July? And she was like, well, I have something I'm going to shoot. And I said, okay, well, I'm shooting with you. And I didn't read the script. I didn't know the character, but I just know her. And so when she said, I need you, I wasn't worried about what I was needed for.
Yeah.
And now here we are premiering, February 13th and on UMC, and very, very exciting.
What keeps you, I guess, going? Because this industry, you've been through a lot, you've experienced, you've seen a lot, you've witnessed a lot. What keeps you going?
I'm more interested in living my life than being a celebrity. And I think people who get caught up in the celebrity chase miss out on a lot of living. I believe that in the last few years, even once I sidestepped away from acting and focused on the AJ Zone as a brand, I learned, now even stepping forward on camera again as an actress, that I've become more known for my life than I have just my films. Mm-hmm. And that is everything to me. So, I grew up, again, the AU Center, before I got here. The AU Center is a full life. It's not just your major. You make friends for life. Some of my best friends are still here in Atlanta that I met at school that knew me before Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And that's valuable to me. And so I just feel like living my life became more important than being a celebrity. And I was a celebrity very early in my career. So I've had a taste of that. And I was like, this is cool, but I can also feel where it's fleeting. I'm on a red carpet and, 1 week you can't call anybody else's name. The next week you're not calling my name at all because my film was no longer in the theater. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I was more valuable than just the current film I was in. And I wanted to start living a life that was a testimony to that. So I just decided that, life was more important than being a celebrity. And I think that's been the staying power.
Biggest lesson learned?
Biggest lesson learned, wow. Trust your soul. I say trust your soul because sometimes your heart can be governed by your mind, but your soul is the root. Your soul is the root. And when I got tired and bored with the industry and what I was getting offered, I trusted my soul and pursued another passion. And I would check in with myself and in with my soul to say, am I ready to go back on camera? I'm ready. And I tell people now, I wasn't seeing anything for that long length of time, for 10 to 12 years. I wasn't seeing any productions, TV or film, that made me say, wow, I'm mad I didn't do that. And that gave me motivation to keep pursuing my other purposes in life. And then when it came time to say, I think I'm supposed to be back on camera, it wasn't even about acting. It was because I felt like my whole life had developed a voice. And I needed to use the platform of acting the way that I know it works in my life. Mm-hmm. I needed to come back and use the platform to elevate and educate, on a lot of different levels based on who my name was and what I represented. So that's really why I came back to acting. I knew God was going to use the platform and use me in a different way than any way before. And so respecting the power of celebrity, I said, okay, I just understand there's a different way that it's going to happen for me. So let me just go ahead and go back on camera because I know that's a step in my story and in my purpose. And so here I am.
Yeah. Well, AJ Johnson, thank you so much for being a guest today on Upfront. Thank you for being true to yourself.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Definitely.
Tonight's program has been brought to you by Upfront, inside Atlanta's entertainment industry. Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Atlanta's Jazz Station, Jazz 91.9 WCLK.